Hey, this is AEE bringing you the latest episode of The Accelerator. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the latest in education news.
Well, welcome to another episode of the podcast here at Accelerated Education Enterprises, known as the Accelerator. And we are really excited today to have distinguished guests in our studio, all the way from Uganda Christian University in Kampala. With me today is Professor Aaron Mushengezi, who is the Vice Chancellor, and Professor John Kitanyembwa, who is the Deputy Vice Chancellor, and Professor Elizabeth Kazito, who is responsible for, let me get it right, Directorate of Research, Partnership and Innovation. And that's exactly why we have joined together, is we're wanting to talk a little bit about an exciting partnership that we have been able to conclude during this week of your visit. So welcome to you, and it's great to have you with us on the podcast.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. I am so interested in the similarities that exist between what AEE is doing and what Uganda Christian University are doing. And I think during our discussions in the week, we came across the statement that is your tagline for the University of the Christian University in Uganda, and it's a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. And Kampala and Uganda are definitely right in the heart of Africa. So can you tell us a little bit about Uganda Christian University, where it's come from, and what you offer, number of students and so on, so our listeners can just have an insight into what's happening in UCU.
Thank you, Graham. It's a joy to be here at AEE in Durban. Uganda Christian University was founded in 1913.
Wow.
Yes, we've made over 100 years, 110 years. But initially it was a seminary.
Okay.
With a mandate to train church workers and teachers.
Right.
And at that time, all the schools were mostly church schools. And so that was the initial mandate. It was called Bishop Tucker Theological College, located in Mukono town, which is about 24 kilometers from the capital city. So that mandate went on for several decades until 1997, when the trustees of the Anglican Church of Uganda thought it was time, because the government had liberalized higher education and allowed private universities to come in to provide education. And so that's when they decided to upgrade the seminary into a fully fledged university. So that was 1997 in October. The university opened its doors with 270 students.
Okay.
At that time. And I believe the first faculties was one. I think we had one or two faculties at that time. But since then we have grown to 14,000 students.
Wow.
In a period of 26 years. And the numbers are growing, and now we have 11 faculties. Almost in all the disciplines, so medicine, engineering, education, social sciences, journalism and media, theology is still part of our offering, dentistry, public health and nursing. Medicine, I think I say that. Mm-hmm. So more or less all fields are offered, and we have 5 campuses across the country.
Okay, wow.
And as you rightly observed, the idea of excellence was part of the vision of the founders. So the tagline, or the vision statement, which says a center of excellence in the heart of Africa, was inspired by 2 things. One, Uganda is indeed, if you look at the African map, is like the heart of Africa. Right. It's right in the middle there. And it's a little country, small country, but quite influential in its own way. And so they wanted this to be like a hub for training leaders who are equipped with Christian values,
Okay.
but also skilled but with values, and then send them out as leaders all over the continent to be people that lead with a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea was, when you look at our, is it called our mission statement? A complete education for a complete person. So that was the idea. Be equipped with the skills, the intellectual skills, but let your experience at UCU touch your heart, your mind, and your hands, so that you go out as a holistically trained individual who can influence society positively. So providing a value-based education is at the very core of what we do. But we receive students from all faiths, all backgrounds. We are now getting students from Southern Africa, from Asia, from Europe, don't be surprised, from West Africa, and from the rest of Africa. So we are an international university.
That's phenomenal to hear, and it's specifically when you're saying from all faiths coming to the university. I mean, why would somebody from a different faith want to come to a Christian university? What has your experience been in that? I don't know, maybe Professor Elizabeth, if you would like to take that one.
Yes, Uganda Christian University stands for excellence, as previously mentioned, and this starts right through from the way business is handled, classes are handled, and this excellence is what people come to receive, quality education.
Right.
Yes, so when our students go out of training into the different spheres, they have become outstanding people wherever they are placed.
Right.
And so this is what people are seeing, the excellence that, that starts from little things. How do you maintain your environment? How do you take care of your health? How do you, sports, for example. Students. How do you treat students? How do you interact with staff? Excellence in all spheres is what is sought after. And this has its effect. It may rub off, even if you don't know. You may not be, you come in of another faith thinking that I will stick with my faith, but it will still rub on you.
The culture is
the
there.
culture will rub off on you, and wherever you go, you will not be like the others.
Right.
And so I think this is what they're looking for. Humanity generally looks out for good things. Respectable people, kind people, empathetic, people who are respectful, people who are ethical.
Yes.
Yes, and today we are very short of that in many spheres. So
right.
when you get somebody who is outstanding in their ethics, there are places you go to, and they say just especially where you have like open plan offices.
Yes.
And they say just look and see. Whoever is still at their desk is a UCU graduate. Most of them are focused.
Working.
They are working and doing their part. Actually, in some place, in the news papers, they've been called the Mother Teresas. The Mother Teresas of in the workforce. These are people who take seriously and whatever assignment they're given, and will probably, Of course, you have extremes. There are those who will really want the money, but on the whole, they're generally well-rounded graduates. I think this is what people want to see, and this is what people want to get. So in spite of your faith, you're looking for a good person, and that's what they come to do, to get that.
I think it's so interesting because irrespective of what faith you're from, people want to get along as people. And we seem to have a small fringe that are wanting to disrupt and cause the other challenges. I actually heard a saying, and I thought it was very interesting. They said, in a world of universal deceit,
Yes.
telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Aha.
And
Yeah.
when people engage with young people that have integrity, have
Yes.
excellence, as we've spoken about,
Yes.
and when what they say is what they do, they immediately stand out from the rest of the crowd.
Indeed.
Professor John, just a question maybe you could speak to is I was interested to hear when Professor Aaron was talking about the fact that UCU started off as a seminary and has then progressed into providing additional faculties and so on. We've seen that around the world, that many leading universities, not only in the US but around Europe, started off as seminaries and places where pastors were trained, clergy were trained, and then over a period of time they've almost done a complete 180 degrees and are going in the opposite direction.
Mm-hmm.
So what's made the difference for UCU? I mean, how's it stayed true to its mission?
Thank you so much, Graham. First and foremost, in 1997, when that move was made to turn UCU, Bishop Tucker Theological College, into a university, it wasn't a smooth transition because I think there were suspicions on either side. For the clergy and the priests in training, they thought that bad people were now being brought into the seminary.
Okay.
And they did not imagine how then spiritual formation and training was going to take place
Right.
with all these other people around. And for the students who are coming in to do business and to do programs like law, people did not believe that these were good products because they thought they were going to be turned into priests.
Priests, yes.
So there was that bit of tension.
Right.
But the founders were very clear that we needed to integrate our faith in the teaching and in the learning. And so for each student that comes to UCU, we are very specific and we're very deliberate in ensuring that the faith is a part of what they learn.
Okay.
So we have foundational courses that we think are important for these students to understand what is playing around. For example, for the spiritual part, we have what we call the introduction or the survey of the Old Testament. That one is done by all students, irrespective of what program they're offering.
And irrespective of their faith.
And irrespective
as
of
well.
their faith.
Yeah.
So we do have a survey of the New Testament.
Right.
We do have a foundational course in understanding worldviews. Some of the things that we are battling with in the world, really behind it all are the worldviews. Behind it all are the times like postmodernism.
Yep.
But we tend to just deal with the symptoms rather than understanding what is really the spirit behind the thoughts that we see in the world, play in the world. And so a UCU graduate will know that. And then they will understand Christian ethics. They will understand things like health and wholeness. But we also want them to be brilliant. Most Africans don't have the right skill in numeracy that is required to survive in this world. So we give them a foundation, elements of mathematics course. But they also need to be students that can handle computing very well. So we have a basics computing course that is done by all these other students.
Right.
Most of our students don't know how to read, to write, and express themselves. So we do have a foundational course for everyone called Writing and Study Skills to just equip these students with the best and the relevant skills that they need. And so how UCU is surviving is that deliberately, as part of our offering, we do offer theologically based or theologically informed course units to all students, irrespective of the faculties. We do have what we call statements of faith that we
Right.
have got to affirm on an annual basis. For example, we have a rule of faith, we have a rule of life, and we have a rule of service. These have got to be affirmed by all staff members, but also for the students. Like for the rule of faith, we want expect the Muslims to say we believe in Jesus Christ at first, but at least they have got to respect that this institution is a Christian university and it is not any other university. And so there are elements within the university. For example, the chaplaincy. It plays a very central role in the university, and the chaplain plays a central role in the university. They are also very strict in terms of, for example, choosing the top leadership and all the staff within the university. So the vice chancellor is not vice chancellor by accident, but people have looked at the Christian testimony. And the church remains responsible. So involved because the chancellor of the university is the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda. And so there is oversight from the church. But in terms of how you, for example, you design the curricula, it is very important that ingredients and components of our faith, the curricula has to be informed by the Christian faith. There are different worldviews, but what will form the truth? That is the Christian thought and truth.
Well, it's fascinating because, again, just looking at the statement, a center of excellence in the heart of Africa. And that just thrills my heart because very often we've looked to the West for excellent education, and we've kind of felt like Africa is not able to produce the results and excellence. And I've had the privilege of visiting the campus at Makono. And as you go through those gates and you begin to travel on that campus, you sense excellence at the campus as well. And I remember when we had our first meeting with the Faculty of Education, and maybe a bit of a tongue-in-cheek question that I asked. I said, what makes Ugandan Christian University Christian? And the response I got was almost verbatim what you've shared here, which for me says this is the culture of the university as opposed to it's just a statement written on a wall. I believe that values are verbs. They are doing words. So many companies have got values, on their walls, but they're just pictures on the wall. And what I experienced by coming to Uganda Christian University and our team was that when you walked onto that campus, what you experienced was what was advertised. When they began to explain the values and so on, it was, yes, that's exactly what we've experienced. And I love the fact that as you were saying, Professor Elizabeth, that we want to teach children, and in this case, students who are now going on into the world of work, how to live, not just how to make a living. So I think many higher education institutions provide a degree or they provide a qualification, but you could use that mathematical skill to count the money you just stole. Or you could use it to make a difference for mankind. So it's exciting for me because, again, the symbiosis between ACE and UCU, we're doing what you're doing at higher education at primary level and at the grade schools, where we are providing the input of the Word of God into the lives of children from an early age. And it's not by mistake, it's not by chance, it's intentional. And somebody once said, well, you're just brainwashing the children. And the response was, well, you're right, but at least we know who's washing their brains. Who's brainwashing your children? Yes. And the world is coming with this this ideology that, is causing so much strife around the world that they're removing the identity of young people at an early age. Right here in our country, in South Africa, the education system is wanting to introduce, even at preschool level, a program at preschool that would discourage teachers from insisting that a child is of a particular gender. And they're intentionally saying you need to disrupt that thinking at that level. Wow. Psalm 139 tells us we were speaking about it. God knew us before we were conceived. So he knew our lives. So I'm thrilled. And maybe we could speak a little bit about what this partnership would look like. We're talking about training the trainers, those that are going to go on into the schools, also the staff members that are going to go into those schools, because they are instruments in the hands of the Lord to impact the students that they're going to speak. So how do you see the relationship between AEE and UCU benefiting the university?
Maybe just before we get to that, this idea you have talked about of education training clever devils.
Yes.
So that when they get to do the work, they're actually using the education to disadvantage people. What we have seen in terms of a testimony, for example, we could talk about the lawyers, but let me talk about the medical doctors.
Yes.
And the people in the Uganda, especially in the medical field, are totally excited about the doctors that are coming out of UCU. The medical school has been in existence for 7 years only. Wow. And so last year we had our first graduation, and these doctors have caused a lot of excitement. People were a bit skeptical about what kind of doctor would come out of learning the Old Testament and the New Testament together with all these things. But this is what has happened.
Yes.
2 examples. One, when they went, we talked about the Heart Institute the other day. Yes. We went to the Heart Institute and we wanted these students to rotate in the Heart Institute. But the director of the Heart Institute was very skeptical about the quality. And yes, they don't want to risk the doctors, the patients within the Heart Institute. So he allowed us only 2 students out of 50. He said, we shall only take in 2. And after a week, he was calling us and was saying, we now want everyone to come and rotate. And the difference was coming in at the point of empathy.
Yes.
The way when they get to the ward, the way they are able to feel the pain that the patients are feeling, to be able to spend longer hours on the ward, so this has been great. One of our graduates passed away this year, unfortunately. But he passed away after he was a sickler himself. And so when he went for internship, he went to the ward for sickle cell in the referral hospital. But his last assignment before he passed away was to request his mother to make a big cake, birthday cake. It was his birthday. And then he went and shared this birthday cake with all the sicklers, the children on the ward. And after that, he said bye, and within a few days, he was dead.
Wow.
But what people were testifying about, the sicklers, the children, were that they had lost not just a doctor, but they had lost a friend.
A friend, yes.
Somebody who could be there and feel their pain. The other time we were in an up-country hospital, and then Kagando. And we found one of the interns. And then we looked him up because we wanted to know how well he's doing. And we found him in the high dependence unit for the pediatric high dependence unit. And he was there all alone. And so we asked how an intern could be allowed to remain on the ward high dependence unit alone. And the director of the hospital said, that one, we trust him. He would even forego his lunch just to make sure that the children on the ward are okay. And I think this is what knowingly or unknowingly we are missing out when we miss out the Christian formation.
Absolutely.
Because there are certain Christian values that come in and that help to really change the person from inside out to be able to provide the right Christian service, whether that be in law, whether that be in agriculture, in business. Yeah.
Actually, in addition to that, it has not been uncommon to find adverts in the newspapers where they say only UCU graduates should apply.
Wow.
Or they say only UCU and Makerere can apply. That's outstanding.
That is outstanding.
Yeah, it's outstanding for you to know that I mean, you already have a place.
Yes.
If you wish to apply for that job, you will not compete with any others. So it already speaks for itself. We bless the Lord so much for that.
Absolutely. And I think so often what happens in Christian ministries, or something that calls itself Christian, because there's a lot of things that call themselves Christian that are not very Christian at all. And it's almost as though if it says Christian, we can do a mediocre job. And I think you alluded to that earlier, Prof, when you were saying when the when you start doing that, bringing the faculties and different areas of life, people say, "Oh, it's from a Christian, so is it going to be quality?"
Oh, can I just give you one more example?
Yes, absolutely.
Our graduations keep time. If they say we start at 9 and end at noon, that's what it is.
Yes.
So I think, like many Africans,
Yes.
time is a very relative.
Time is variable.
Yes. So some parents think, oh, well, we will stroll in at 11. We will stroll in at midday.
Find us winding up.
And they find us winding up, and they're in shock that they have missed the graduation. So that, I mean,
The discipline.
discipline,
Yeah.
right from
Punctuality,
discipline,
that's-
punctuality,
yeah.
keeping time, value time.
Yeah.
Even classes, for example, I mean, if you're late by, like, let's say 15 minutes, the students have a right to walk out that you're late. And equally,
If the lecturer is late.
yes, if a
And
lecturer
report on you.
and report on
Wow.
you that the lecturer is late, or the vice versa, you can ask the student, sorry, you're late for my class, come back next time. So building that kind of culture of
Yes.
excellence, living excellently is beyond just yeah. So that these are values that we want to cultivate, that are even beyond. After you have read your Bible, faith is doing.
Yes. Yes.
If we don't live it, then we are not the faith.
Dead faith.
It's dead.
But I think maybe that's another statement.
Yes.
Africans arriving on time for an event is a revolutionary act.
Yes.
But you're building that culture into
Yes.
the daily life, and that's why when they get into the workspace
Yes.
and they arrive on time, it's they do their work.
Yes.
We're going back to the question.
To your
Yes.
question now, I think the partnership agreement we have signed with AEE and UCU is the right thing to do because we're doing the same business.
Yes.
The business of instilling these values from our faith into the education system. And by the way, there's nothing like a valueless or ideology-free education.
Yep.
So whoever says that you're, what word did you use? You're brainwashing.
Yes.
There's nothing like an education that doesn't do something.
There's no neutral
There's
education.
no neutral
Right.
education. What word did we use the other time? There's nothing. There's a hidden curriculum.
Yes. The hidden.
curriculum.
There's always a
Correct,
hidden
yes.
curriculum anywhere.
Yeah.
So those who criticize AEE themselves know they have a hidden curriculum
Mm-hmm.
in what they do. There's a hidden agenda. But in our case, we are very open about what we do because we think there's something we are losing in the education system when we neglect the fundamentals that have shaped our societies. And the fundamentals that come from the positive culture, the faith, and the value systems that define humanity are very important. And we need to distill them and carry them forward to our children and our grandchildren. So we believe that the training that we will be conducting for teachers who implement the ACE, Accelerated Christian Education Curriculum, at UCU is going to greatly change the way these schools are operated and the way the teachers deliver
Right.
what the curriculum says. And so we believe that working with AE, we're going to be the hub for teacher training, for even examining this kind of curriculum in East Africa and maybe in Africa. And already we're seeing a lot of interest that is coming up when the announcement was made. There's a lot of interest.
Wonderful.
That is being generated. I believe personally, this is my personal view, that our governments have not done a good job of running our schools, especially our church-founded schools. In Uganda, the Anglican Church of Uganda and the Catholic Church are probably the largest owners of schools.
Even more than government schools?
I think so.
Wow.
I think the church-founded schools, Anglican, Catholic, are more than the schools founded by the government. But what our churches did was to trust the government with the schools. Of course, the government has offered education to our people. But I think increasingly the churches also need to have some influence over the way things are run, the management of the schools, the way the curriculum is offered. And I think if this partnership can help us have more influence over church-founded schools,
yes,
by infusing these Christian ideals and possibly some elements of the AC curriculum, for me it would be very revolutionary. So I look forward to that.
Absolutely, and I think we are very excited about what the Lord will do as a result of this partnership. And at the end of the day, it's the extension of His kingdom that we're talking about. But it's like the salt, as Jesus spoke about it in Matthew chapter 5. He said, we are the salt of the earth. But I think what's happened is that the salt has been kept inside the container. It hasn't been released into the world to go and make a difference. And what I'm hearing today is that what's taking place from UCU is that the students are coming through the schools. They've got a solid biblical foundation because of their primary and secondary education. And then that is being perpetuated at the university level. And then they're being released like arrows to go and impact their world. And I really believe it's time for the church to awaken from their slumber and say, we need to do something. If we don't, we are going to see evil continue to grow and develop. And so for us, it has been an absolute thrill and a blessing to have you visit together with us. I want to again thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules. I know you had to conduct some meetings remotely while being here, but your being with us and us being able to interact like this, I believe, has done way more than just provide a visit. It's bound our hearts together for the common purpose of what God wants to do. And so Professor Aaron and Professor Elizabeth and Professor John, I think it's the first time I've been in a room with so many professors. It's been an absolute honor to have you with us. And we look forward to more discussions like this as we see the partnership unfold, as we see schools beginning to flourish, church schools, God willing, that will take up that responsibility, and we will see the world reached for Christ, one child at a time. Amen. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Graham. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much for joining us. If you love what you've heard, make sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube to get the latest scoop on everything education.